night. I want to get next to Michelle in California. Hey, Michelle, you are on the air. What's going on? Hello, hello.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing all right, Michelle. How about yourself?
Hi, Michelle.
I'm pretty good. Basically, I wanted to call and ask you guys. Basically, I've been in this kind of atheist, non-believer, deconverting community for a couple months now. I've had an opportunity to call into another couple shows, and so I want to call in and ask you guys, because I know that you are both former theists. Like, one of you was like a Jehovah's Witness, and like the other one was like a Christian, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to know if either one of you have had any experience with feeling cursed from leaving the religion. I have been talking with people. I've had some great conversations. The problem for me is it seems that a lot of the advice that I get and testimonies of people who have kind of successfully mentally deconverted, they did so through like these processes of philosophy and logic and debating, and like I'm just now learning about this stuff like fallacies and all this stuff, and it's really confusing. And so I'm just really afraid that if I don't learn this stuff, that if I really don't go and get like literally a master's degree in philosophy, that I won't be able to break all this stuff down to the point where I can rationally say that maybe there's no God and get out of the fear of hell and being cursed and having a reprobate mind. So I'm just wondering, do you guys think that there is a way to circumvent this whole thing that I'm going through, feeling like I'm under God's curse, but doing it in a way where I don't have to use the... I just want, is that the only means that's like available?
Philosophy, Michelle, philosophy is just a technique like for thinking, for deciding how, for taking a belief and dismantling it and figuring out how it works, or taking an idea and dismantling it. If you have arrived at some belief because you failed to be convinced by a given religious proposition, you don't then need to necessarily study philosophy if you're satisfied that whatever religious proposition you previously had is no longer true. Philosophy is beneficial if you're in the business of taking on Christian apologists, for example, or going toe-to-toe with them. But that doesn't describe everybody. It may be that you don't feel the need to debate Christian apologists, in which case, you don't need to feel as though you aren't doing it right.
Yeah.
If you don't study philosophy, it's not how it works.
Here's my recommendation, Michelle, because what it sounds like is something that I think a lot of us can relate to. Just the general anxiety and paranoia that comes with leaving your religious faith and thinking, oh, what have I done? I've done something wrong. And it's like this, this feeling in your chest for me, like just like, like I feel icky. I'm doing this thing I was taught my entire life not to do.
Yes.
And so that's, not something that philosophy is ever going to entirely fix. What I do recommend is one of the biggest reasons why the ACA exists is because it's a community for people to hang out and talk about these kinds of things and share in those anxieties. And one of the biggest remedies for myself was finding my own community and working my issues out with other people and relating my experiences with other people. Because when I found out, I'm not the only one that thinks this way, suddenly that's not as bad anymore. Suddenly it's like, I see how this was kind of designed to like keep people in. Like that I'm doing the thing it feels like I'm not supposed to do because that's not what they want me to do, But now I think... Go ahead.
Well, sorry. I just, it's funny. Like, I'm brand new, so, it's hard for me to give anything definitive. I've been doing that, and I think I cannot believe, I'm going to say this to you guys publicly, and I know that everybody will understand, even though it's probably going to sound really awful, is that I have this feeling that comes to my mind, like every time I log into Discord and I am doing everything you're doing, there's this idea in the back of my mind that is actually the confirmation You see what I'm saying? So the fact that I'm actually in a community of atheists, like when I log in, if there's like this feeling of, this is it. I have now slid down to the very bottom to like the ghetto, and now you're basically the feeling of now you're with those people.
Oh my goodness!
And even though I'm having a good time and building friendships, and so I'm like,
let me tell you, the first time
to me anymore after this call,
Michelle, the first time I went to an atheist convention, I was like, look at all these fucking people. Look at they're weird, they're different, they're like so not what I was used to. And at first I was like, whoa, I'm in like a strange place right now. And now I go to these things like, hey, what's up? These are like my people right here. Like, you know, like it's totally normal that you're feeling that way. That's definitely.
Oh, thank you. I really needed to hear you say that, because I mean, I don't want to show up in the lounge and be like, you know what? I think you guys are all weird. But I mean, and it's not just weird, but can you speak to? I would really love to hear one of you guys' take on. It's not just weird and different, but it is we're all under the curse, like, or that. Okay, this is like the biggest thing, and please tell me if you can say something to this, that it's not just different or weird, or that I'm just not used to it or first exposure. I can handle all of that. It is that there are traits and attributes that are very clear in the community that were defined by my Christianity. Like, for instance, they say, like, oh, you know, people who don't accept God, they love to argue. And so I think there's this one thing that it's always like, oh, my God, does this mean that we are just free? Or does this really mean that this is, like, true? Like, oh, my God, like, all those people want to do, they just want to argue because they don't have, like, the Spirit of Christ in them.
So,
can you speak to that?
Yes. So, Michelle, you know, when you and I grew up, we understood narratives about other people, about why they were the way that they were, right? And the narrative that we heard about atheists was, well, something bad happened to them, or they had some sort of bad reasoning, or, you know, it could be a myriad of different reasons. And so, like, now that you and I have come to this point now where we are also identifying as atheists, we're thinking, okay, which of these things is applying to me right now? And what am I fulfilling out of my, you know, cultural understandings of what atheists are? And like, am I the way that I am because of one of these things? Like, is one of these things true? And like, that's purely the result of cultural conditioning on your part. And I'll tell you how I know this, because the people who grew up without, you know, religion in their lives, who are like atheists, they didn't have any doubts about that kind of stuff. That wasn't something that was in their head.
Okay.
You know, like,
so basically you're comparing it to, so you're saying basically you're taking the whole phenomenon that we went through and you're comparing it to just like a group of people who didn't have religion at all, because their reaction was so different. Right. I can't say like it's universal for everybody.
I think, you're feeling this way now because you and I grew up on a certain lens. You know, the atheists that I know, I mean, I could be wrong, but the atheists I knew that grew up atheists, they didn't struggle with the kinds of like, oh, am I doing this wrong? Is this the whole thing? Like, because it wasn't, you know, for a lot of them, it wasn't a question. You know, maybe they did consider religious options and stuff, but like, they're not feeling it in the same way that it's not a guilt thing for most people. You know what I mean? It's a guilt thing for us because
I don't think I can ever be an atheist, though. I feel like I think when I know you got to take other calls, I guess if the last thing I just want to say, if you could speak to, is that honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I don't feel like I could ever be like a true atheist.
Why?
With the definition of like I don't have enough evidence like to prove like that a God exists or whatever.
Okay.
Because I feel like there is something like some kind of supernatural something. Like I'm not like a hardcore natural materialist. This is all there is. So I don't know if I could ever really be an atheist, because I think that there might be something, but I just don't know what the fuck it is.
So check it out.
What that's called.
So check it out, Michelle. I think there could be things out there too, and I still call myself an atheist. You want to know why? Because my definition of atheism, and people have different definitions, and that's okay, right? My definition of atheism is that I lack a belief in God. That's it. You know, that doesn't mean that I don't think a God exists. Doesn't mean that I don't think the possibility of God is possible. I just don't have a belief in one. That's all that means.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could not believe in a God and also hold the view that there could potentially be one and call yourself an atheist. I didn't know that.
Sure. I mean, you know, like words are things that we invented, right? I mean, like, you know, so some would call my position agnostic atheist, right? Because I'm not making a specific claim that God does not exist. but I still don't have a belief in one, right? Like, especially, in terms of the Christian God, that's not a God that I have a particular belief in, right? So is there some other form of God out there that escapes my understanding of how things work and comprehension of the world? Maybe. Yeah, I'm not denying that. But, for most people's understanding, like you can, I think this is a problem too, because if you grow up Christian, you probably have a different understanding of the word atheist. I know I did. And so there's kind of a confusion there in how we use the language. But yeah, if you lack a belief in God, you can call yourself an atheist and you can use that label. So
I don't think, would you agree with the statement that as long as I have the fear, that I have the belief? And I guess that's kind of what I feel like. I don't know if I'm ever going to. I mean, obviously you can't be afraid of something that you don't believe in. So I feel like the fear.
It's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
When you've gone through years or even decades of indoctrination, your brain has been conditioned to have these fears. So it's not like you're in control of it. It's just your brain is acting on the coding that it's being given. So it doesn't mean that you're a bad atheist because you have doubts or moments of fear or whatever. It just means that your brain is reverting to the kind of default that it's been programmed with due to your upbringing, and you can overcome it. And if you are experiencing extreme anxiety, I can't stress enough that you might want to consider getting some kind of professional help with it. But by and large, you'll find that as the years pass by, you'll get more comfortable. And going back to what you were saying before about philosophy, one very simple piece of philosophy that helped me when I was first kind of breaking free from religion was to say, well, what kind of God would punish me for having genuine doubts as to his existence, but reward me for believing that he exists based on bad evidence? I'm not sure I'm not sure I can respect a God like that. So I'm putting the problem in his on his side, because he's set up this whole messed up game where I have to believe based on bad evidence or I lose. So that's basic philosophy. You don't have to know all of the fallacies and what have you to reach that sort of conclusion.
Here's another take on this, Michelle. How many people go to the ocean to swim and who are afraid of sharks in the water, even if there aren't sharks there?
Yeah.
Right? Right? Yeah, so you can know that there's not any sharks there. That doesn't mean you're not afraid, right? So, food for thought on that. But thanks so much for calling and talking to us about your experiences here. And
thank you.
I also recommend, and this is for anybody watching the show, check out the Atheist Community of Austin Discord as well if you're on Discord, and talk to some of the folks there if you haven't already. There's great people who are willing to talk to you about your experiences and just have a good time. We'll be doing a thing on the Discord after this show. Lloyd will not be joining us tonight, but I will be there tonight. So those of you who are watching live can check that out and talk to me. So if you want to do that, that's cool. But Michelle, thanks again for calling. And I hope.
Thank you, guys.
Of course. Yeah. Have a great night.
Thank you.
So isn't
what
it
a lovely
funny?
lady?
Yeah. Isn't it funny how just words can trip us up like that on what we assume definitions are? I know it tripped me up because I was like, I knew that was the thing for me too. Like, I couldn't call myself an atheist, and then I learned like, atheist just means this, and it's like, okay, yeah.
But Dan, serious question: have you ever met a gnostic atheist?
Yes. There's some there's some that have called into the show. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't met one.
Yeah. There are some.
Pretty much all the atheists. Well, all the atheists I've met are all agnostic atheists.
It's a minority view, but they're out there for sure.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. And there's some, of course, there's some that's going to quibble with us on how we use the terms agnostic and stuff. And that's a whole other debate too. But yeah, for the purposes of those definitions, I've talked to some, and I can't come to that conclusion, but I say good for them.